A massive German Shepherd had his head wedged tight between cold iron bars, growling and thrashing in panic. Adults stood frozen, completely unsure how to help without making things worse. But then a baby crawled forward and did something that left everyone absolutely stunned. It was a quiet morning in the Willow Creek neighborhood. Everything felt peaceful until the barking started. At first, it was just one loud bark. Urgent. Then came another. Then a deep, panicked howl. From behind the tall iron gate at the end of a side yard, a large German Shepherd thrashed and yelped in distress. His massive head was wedged tightly between the cold metal bars. No one knew exactly how he'd gotten stuck, but he was trapped. And he was terrified. Within minutes, people began emerging from their homes, drawn by the desperate noise. The dog strained with all his strength, trying to pull himself free, his paws scraping frantically against the ground. Saliva dripped from his jaws as he cried out. The peace of the morning had completely shattered. Now all eyes were on a trapped dog. And time was running out fast. Two neighbors rushed over first. Mr. Halverson from across the street and a teenage boy named Eli. They tried to calm the dog down, speaking softly, holding out gloved hands in a gesture of peace. But the shepherd was frantic. His powerful body slammed against the gate, teeth bared. Not in aggression, but in pure, unfiltered panic. "He's going to hurt himself," Mr. Halverson muttered, his eyes darting nervously. Someone rushed over with a bottle of dish soap, hoping to slick the bars and help slide his head free. But it didn't work. Every time they tried to touch his neck or shift his head even slightly, the dog jerked violently, yelping in pain. It was painfully clear he didn't understand they were trying to help. A woman pulled out her phone and called animal control. Another neighbor tried reaching the dog's owner. No answer. Eli crouched low, keeping his voice as calm as possible. "It's okay, boy. Just stay still. We're going to help you." But the shepherd was exhausted now, panting hard, tongue lolling from his mouth. The tension in the air was suffocating. They were running out of ideas. And the dog was running out of strength. Within minutes, the commotion had drawn a small crowd. Parents held their kids close, keeping them at a safe distance. Curious neighbors gathered to watch. Phones started recording. Some people offered suggestions. Try turning his head. Use water to cool him down. Maybe cut the bars. But no one had a real solution. The German Shepherd, large and muscular, was clearly well fed and well cared for. He must have slipped through the yard gate and wedged his head between the bars while chasing something. A squirrel maybe. A cat. Now he was trapped, his ears pinned flat against his head, eyes wide with pure fear. A young woman tried coaxing him with treats, kneeling down and holding them out gently. But he ignored her completely, too distressed to focus on anything but his own terror. The dog let out another guttural cry that made several people flinch. "He's going to pass out," someone whispered nervously. Mr. Halverson pulled out his phone again, calling animal control for an update. They said 20 minutes, he muttered. 20 minutes could be too late. Everyone stood there, helpless, watching. And then, quietly from the side of the yard, came the soft shuffle of tiny feet. While the adults debated and the shepherd continued to struggle, no one noticed the small figure crawling through the grass from a nearby porch. Dressed in soft blue pajamas and tiny sneakers, barely old enough to walk steadily, the baby moved with innocent curiosity, drawn to the sound of the barking. His name was Noah. His mother had turned her back for just a moment to grab his bottle from the kitchen. In that single minute, Noah had slipped through the gate she'd left slightly ajar, his big blue eyes fixated on the commotion ahead. By the time anyone noticed, he was already halfway across the yard, moving steadily toward the fence. The crowd gasped in unison. "Noah!" someone shouted. But the baby didn't stop. He crawled right up to the gate where the shepherd's head was still trapped and sat down just inches away, his small hands pressing against the iron bars. Everyone held their breath, frozen with fear. One wrong move, and this could turn into a tragedy. Time seemed to stop completely. The panicked dog, who had been thrashing and howling just seconds earlier, suddenly froze. His wild eyes locked onto the baby now sitting calmly in front of him. No growls. No lunges. Just a strange, profound stillness, like something sacred had entered the space. Noah blinked up at the dog, completely unafraid. His tiny fingers gripped the edge of the gate, and he let out a soft giggle. Pure, unfiltered joy. The crowd didn't dare breathe. One woman stepped forward instinctively to grab the baby, but Mr. Halverson stopped her with an outstretched arm. "Wait," he whispered, his voice tight with disbelief. "Just wait." The shepherd's breathing began to slow. His ears, once pinned flat in terror, lifted slightly. He let out a low whine. Not of pain, but something almost apologetic. His tail, which had been twitching nervously moments ago, now lay still. Noah reached through the bars and gently touched the dog's nose. And for the first time since the entire ordeal began, the German shepherd closed his eyes. Peace had entered chaos in the form of a baby. If this story touches your heart, please share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of innocence. Noah's small hand remained on the dog's nose, soft and steady. The shepherd let out a slow, shaky exhale, as though releasing all the fear he'd been carrying since getting trapped. His muscles, once tight and trembling, slowly began to relax. Noah giggled again and leaned forward, pressing his forehead gently against the bars. The dog didn't flinch. Instead, he responded with a quiet, grateful whimper. And then, to everyone's absolute astonishment, he licked the baby's tiny fingers. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Did you see that?" Someone whispered. "He's calm. Like he knows him. Like he trusts him." Eli and Mr. Halverson took slow, careful steps forward, watching closely for any sign of panic. But the dog stayed completely still, his eyes fixed on Noah, trusting him. With the shepherd finally calm, the neighbors could finally get closer. One person gently cradled his body while another examined the gate more carefully. "He's not wedged as tight now," someone said. "We might actually be able to move his head." The baby hadn't just calmed the dog. He had given them their chance. Eli knelt beside the shepherd, his hands moving slowly and deliberately toward the dog's neck. "Easy, boy," he whispered, glancing over at Noah, who still sat calmly nearby. The baby clapped his hands softly, as if cheering them on. The dog didn't growl, didn't resist. His trust in the little human seemed to extend naturally to everyone around him now. With Mr. Halverson holding the gate steady, Eli gently tilted the shepherd's head. For 1/10 second, it seemed stuck. Then, with a slight twist and a careful nudge, it slipped free. A cheer erupted from the small crowd. The German shepherd stumbled backward, panting heavily, but finally free. He didn't run, didn't bark. He walked straight over to Noah and pressed his head gently against the baby's shoulder. Noah let out a delighted squeal and patted the dog's ear with his tiny hand. Phones snapped pictures. Some people wiped away tears openly. It wasn't just the rescue. It was the bond. The connection. Grown adults who had been too afraid to approach the dog now stood clapping, some wiping tears from their cheeks. The baby had done what none of them could. No one could believe this was the same animal that had been snarling and trapped just minutes earlier. Someone said softly, voice thick with emotion, that baby didn't just save the dog. He changed everything. If this incredible story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming true stories that prove sometimes the smallest among us have the biggest hearts.